The large, powerful forces are working in Brussels to cut us off from energy resources coming from Russia. Powerful forces are working in Brussels to jeopardize Hungary's energy supply security. NATO member nation Hungary is preparing to take a bold legal step, as it plans to drag the European Union to court over the bloc's newly proposed ban on Russian energy imports, a move that has sparked major political debate in Brussels. Budapest is now determined to challenge the RePowerEU energy ban at the European Court of Justice, aiming to fully overturn the regulation that it claims unfairly penalizes nations dependent on Russian energy. Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjarto announced that Slovakia will join the legal battle, confirming that both countries are ready to take the European Union to court over what they describe as unjust and damaging energy restrictions. Hungary and Slovakia will jointly seek an annulment at the European Court of Justice, and they plan to act the moment the EU officially adopts the Russian energy ban, marking the start of a significant legal confrontation within the bloc. Szijjarto argued that cutting off Russian oil and gas imports would severely harm both Hungary and Slovakia, warning that such a move would destabilize their energy systems and threaten the affordability of power in their countries. Budapest and Bratislava are also set to demand the suspension of the EU's ban on Russian energy imports, hoping to halt the policy's enforcement until the legal proceedings reach a final decision. Hungary further asserted that the proposed sanctions measure cannot move forward without the unanimous consent of all 27 EU member states, emphasizing that the decision breaches the bloc's own treaty framework. Slovakian Prime Minister Robert Fico has reportedly declared that his government has ample financial resources to fund the lawsuit, signaling both nations' determination to stand their ground against the EU's policy.
Szijjarto said, and I quote, "As soon as the RePowerEU plan is adopted next week, together with Slovakia we will submit an annulment request to the European Court of Justice and we will ask for the suspension of the regulation for the duration of the court proceedings. We are taking this step because banning Russian oil and gas imports would make the secure energy supply of Hungary and Slovakia impossible and would lead to dramatic price increases. This regulation is also a massive legal fraud, since it is clearly a sanctions measure that would require unanimous approval. It goes against the EU treaties as well, which state that energy policy is a national competence, and contradicts even the EU Commission's own assessment."
The RePowerEU plan reportedly envisions a complete termination of Russian energy imports by the end of 2027, as the bloc seeks to drastically reduce its dependency on Russian oil and gas in response to geopolitical tensions. The European Commission allegedly bypassed objections from Hungary and Slovakia, using procedural mechanisms that allowed it to advance the proposed Russian energy ban despite firm opposition from the two countries. To move forward, the EU rerouted voting through trade and energy law provisions, which do not require unanimous consent from all member nations, effectively sidelining the veto powers of Hungary and Slovakia. Hungary has repeatedly warned that a total ban on Russian energy would lead to skyrocketing costs and destabilize energy supply chains, posing severe economic risks for the country and the region. On December 5, Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjarto claimed that powerful political forces within Brussels are working behind the scenes, allegedly trying to isolate Hungary over its reliance on Russian energy. Szijjarto accused EU officials of deliberately targeting Hungary's energy security, suggesting that Brussels aims to pressure the country due to its continued close relations with Moscow. However, Budapest maintains that its existing energy and political agreements with both former US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin will ensure Hungary's long-term energy stability and safeguard its national interests.
The large, powerful forces are working in Brussels to cut us off from energy resources coming from Russia. Powerful forces are working in Brussels to jeopardize Hungary's energy supply security. Powerful forces are working in Brussels to put the Hungarian economy up against difficult challenges. However, We have made those agreements in both Washington and Moscow that are necessary for Hungary's energy supply to be secure. And now we must fight in Brussels to ensure that, thanks to these agreements, we can maintain the security of our country's energy supply and the results of the reduction in utility costs in the long term. The fact that today Hungary has the most attractive investment environment in Europe, one of the most important foundations of which is Europe's lowest flat taxes. However, in such a difficult period, which is particularly bad, uncertain, and unpredictable for the global economy, the country's economic stability can only be maintained if we have serious allies. And the serious allies here are the companies that create jobs in Hungary, carry out investments, and bring modern technology. With our allies, we regularly conclude strategic cooperation agreements. So far, we have concluded strategic agreements with 16 German and American, 11 Chinese, and 9 Hungarian companies. Cooperation agreements with many companies from other countries as well. So far, there have been 99 companies on the list that contain our strategic partners.
Beyond its resistance to the energy ban, Hungary has also actively blocked the EU's attempt to utilize frozen Russian assets, further widening the rift between Budapest and the European Commission. On December 5, Hungary officially rejected a proposal to issue Eurobonds meant to financially support Ukraine, signaling a fresh point of contention within the bloc's economic strategies. These Eurobonds were intended as a backup funding mechanism for Kiev, in case the EU failed to gain consensus on using the profits from frozen Russian funds to assist the war-torn nation. Hungary's refusal threatens to derail what Brussels had described as its Plan B, a last-resort approach to sustain financial support for Ukraine amid ongoing internal divisions across the Union.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest newsmakers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.